Ken Paxton's weird attack on Talarico says everything, y'all. Ken Paxton doesn't want this race to be about one thing, and that's character. He doesn't want it to be about corruption. He doesn't want it to be about public trust. He doesn't want it to be about the issues. He does not want it to be about Christian nationalism, moral leadership, or whether even the people of Texas can trust him with power. So now what we talking? He's talking barbecue. Barbecue. I know it sounds ridiculous because it is ridiculous. But know this, y'all. It's not random. It's not random. When a politician with Ken Paxton's baggage, and he got some baggage, when a politician like that wants the conversation to be about brisket, barbecue, testosterone, vegan, and whether James Talarico's is man enough for Texas, you need to ask a better question. What is he trying to distract us from? Because, see, this ain't about barbecue. It's about power. It's about masculinity, their kind of masculinity, and it's about faith. This is about the kind of leadership Texas is being asked to reward. See, Paxton and his supporters are trying to do something very specific with James Talarico, and I don't want you to miss it. And I'm going to be talking about this more and more because I know the strategy, because I was a Republican for 40 years, because I've studied this stuff. Not because I'm perfect, but I've studied it, and I've been part of it. And what Paxton and his supporters and MAGA and the Republican Party are trying to do, they're just not trying to defeat Talarico. They're trying to define Talarico. And see, once they define him, once you can define a thing, name a thing, you get to manipulate that thing. That's what Donald Trump has been able to do with MAGA. That's what he has done his whole time that he's been in office. They are trying to define Talarico to make him appear to be weak, soft, strange, unmanly, unmanly, not Texas enough. Y'all, y'all, he ain't gonna be Texas enough. He ain't gonna be Christian enough. He ain't gonna be tough enough. But see, once they get people, you and me and other people, voters, once they get people laughing at him, mocking him, questioning whether he fits the image of what a Texas man is supposed to be, then maybe people will stop asking the hard questions. Questions like, okay, what kind of character should matter in this race? What kind of conduct are we willing to excuse? What kind of fruit is being produced by either Talarico or by Paxton? See, these are the questions that they don't want us to ask, but these are the very questions that they're trying to detract us from. And why are so many people who claim to care? And you gotta ask yourself this: why are so many people who claim to care about biblical values suddenly silent when the person on their side violates those very values? So you don't hear nothing about family values come to Ken Paxton. You're not gonna hear anything about that. See, because that's the real conversation. But Paxton don't want that conversation. The Republicans in Texas don't want that conversation when it comes to Paxton. So instead, what do we get? We get the performance. We get the tough guy act. We get the culture war jokes. We get the barbecue challenge. We get the low T Talarico, low testosterone jokes. It's an attempt, y'all, Attempt to do what, Dorothy? I'm glad you asked. The attempt to turn James Talarico into a symbol of weakness. But let's be honest. Let's be honest. This kind of politics only works when people have been taught to confuse what? To confuse cruelty with strength. And that's what MAGA is about. That's what this Republican Party in Texas is about. That's what Donald Trump has been able to do for the past 2 years. He's been able to confuse cruelty with strength. And it's worked. We have confused masculinity with aggression, strength with loudness. And we've confused leadership with dominance. He wants us. The Republicans wants us. Ken Paxton wants us to confuse conviction with combativeness, you see. And somewhere along the way, too many people believing that if a man is mean enough, loud enough, insulting enough, and combating enough, then you know what? He must be a man. He must be strong. That ain't strength. That's insecurity. And that is the weakness that they're trying to hide by trying to redefine Talarico into this weak, soft, weird guy. His weakness dressed up in cowboy boots. A leader can eat brisket, wear boots, quote scripture, stand in front of a flag, and still lack what? And still lack moral courage. That's what they don't want you to focus on. So all this stuff. Anybody can talk tough all day. Anybody can do that. And still fold, though, when the question of integrity comes. Because that's too much. A man can call himself a fighter and still fight for the wrong things. A man can be on the other side and still be calm and strong. See, these are the kinds of things that they don't want us to think about. They want us to look at barbecue. They want us to look at low T. They want us to look at testosterone. But the things that matter is what they don't want us to focus on. Because a leader can speak with restraint and still be strong and still be bold. And a leader can refuse to perform cruelty and still have a backbone. These are the kinds of things, y'all, we need to start thinking about, because these are the things that we're going to be inundated with all summer long in the effort to redefine or define Talarico and put him in a box that they want him to be in, the box that they want us to not check, that they want Texans not to check. Because the attack on James Talarico is not really about whether he eats meat or he eats barbecue. It's about whether Texas voters can still recognize leadership when it doesn't come wrapped in the old costume of dominance and biblical values and all the and patriotism. Ain't nothing wrong with those things. But to cosplay those things, everything is wrong with that. And that's what we've been getting from Paxton. That's what we've been getting from MAGA. That's what we've been getting with Republicans here in Texas. That's what we've been getting with Abbott. But this is where the faith piece matters. I'm talking about the real faith piece. Because both sides of this race are going to be dealing with faith. Texas politics has been shaped by what? By religion. By religion for a long time now, at least the past 30 years. And there's a difference, though, between faith and Christian nationalism, between true faith and Christian nationalism. There's a difference between following Jesus and using Jesus. Hello, somebody. I just said something right there. There's a difference between following Jesus and using Jesus. And there's a difference between moral conviction and religious performance. And the religious performance is what we've been seeing. The religious performance is what the Republicans are about, what MAGA is about. Religious performance. not about loving your neighbor as yourself, not about speaking up for those who can't speak for themselves, not about protecting those who are the most vulnerable in our community, in our society, the immigrants, the poor, the children, not about that. And this is why I think a lot of people need to slow down and pay attention. Pay attention, because the question for Christian voters, for Christ followers who are voters, is not simply who says the Christian things. That's too easy. That's what we've been getting. Anybody can say the Christian words. Anybody can quote scripture. Anybody can show up at a church and say, here I am, vote for me because I'm a Christian. I have biblical values. Where has that gotten us? Anybody can do that. Anybody can use religious language when it helps them politically, and that's what we've seen. But the better question, y'all, and the better question that we need to ask over and over and over this summer, we need to ask every time we hear these people, is what kind of fruits, though, is being produced? Because that's what Jesus said. Jesus said, you will know them by their fruit. So we look at the fruit. And I'm going to put a link to a Substack essay that I just did yesterday, what's happened to Texas. And I talk about the fruit that's been produced over the past 30 years by those who are in leadership and those who are in these offices, what kind of fruit we have been served in Texas these past 30 years. Does this fruit produce humility? Does it produce truth? Does it produce justice? Does it produce mercy, accountability, vulnerability? See, these are the kinds of things, not boisterous bragging, not name calling. And we need to step back for a minute when we hear all this stuff and say, hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute, especially people of faith. We need to stop and say, wait a minute, does this align with what Jesus is saying? Does this align with what Scripture is saying? Or does it produce more cruelty, more mockery, more fear, domination, excuses, standards that are beneath the floor? The floor, double standards, the standard for the religious and the standard for the rest of us. But the standard for the religious is in the basement. But they make it appear as though that is the standard. It's not. It's a double standard. Because Jesus did not tell us to judge leaders by how tough they sound or their standard. He told us to look at the fruit. Simple. Look at the fruit. Look at the fruit. And in Texas, the fruit is speaking, and the fruit over the past 30 years has become rotten. Now, I ain't no liberal. Those who know me know I ain't no liberal. I was a part of it. I mean, I've been a part of it. I was a part of the grove. I was a part of the field for 40 years. That's why I'm not just sitting here talking about something I don't know about. Reading a script somewhere, hoping somebody believe me. I tell you what I know because I've been a worker in the field. And I'm telling you, the fruit is rotten. The fruit is rotten. Now let's talk about what really matters beyond Paxton, beyond Talarico, because this is just not a Senate story. This is a Texas story. And this is a story that I'm going to keep telling over and over and over all summer long, y'all. Because we need to. Because if we fall for these distractions, and that's all this stuff is. Now, I'm going to talk about the Democrats too in a minute. But if we fall for this stuff, we will look up and we will have Paxton in that Senate seat. Now, if you've been in Texas any length of time, even if you are a Republican, you cannot deny the fruit of Ken Paxton. So this is a Texas story. And Texas has always had a habit of deciding who gets considered real and who not. Who is a real Texan? Who is a real Christian? Who is a real man? Who is a real patriot? Who belongs? Yeah. And we saw that this weekend with the GOP. You had Muslims coming to the GOP convention leaving crying because they told those Muslims, y'all ain't part of us. Y'all need to go right back where you came from because we do not accept you in our party. If you don't believe me, it's all in the papers. Had a man sitting there on the stage crying, a Muslim crying because the Republicans told him, you can never be one of us. You need to go back where you came from. Same thing they did with their chairman. Even though the state party chair was endorsed by Ken Paxton and others, the mood that Republican Texans are in now, excuse me, if you're not white and male, or if you're not white and a subservient female, they ain't got no use for you. They kicked out Abraham George and they put in a white woman, the white woman who was at one time his running mate. And if you read the comments, they are horrible. One guy said, I'm not for a woman, but she's better than an Indian. Yeah. So you need to look at who gets censored, who gets accepted, who gets marginalized. And these are the kinds of things that I'm going to be talking about. Because these are the things, when it comes down to it, when the rubber meets the road, these are the kinds of things that matter. And every time politics start deciding who counts as real, somebody's about to get excluded. You can bet on that. They may not say that, but when they start talking about who's real, who's not, who's acceptable, who's not, what they're really saying is who we are fixing to exclude. Oh, they won't say it that way. But those Muslims at the GOP convention learned that this weekend. Abraham George, their Indian former chairman, he found that out this weekend. Somebody fixing to be excluded, and they're not going to be white, and they're not going to be they're not going to be white. They're going to be brown. That's where we are. And if you're going to be brown, you're going to have to toe the line, and you're sure not going to be in a leadership position. We're about to see that in Congress. There's not going to be but one African-American left in Congress that's a Republican. That's going to be Tim Scott. The fruit, y'all, the fruit. That's why race matters in this conversation. They made it matter. And since they made it matter, we have to make it matter, even though we are tired. We've been tired. But it matters to them, so it has to matter to us. And that's why Black women voters matter too. Let me say this. Let me put this out here, because if y'all read my Substack, I talked about the Democrats and their state conference that's coming up. They didn't have not one Black woman. They didn't have not one Black man, with the exception of Cory Booker, as their headliners for their convention that's coming up in a couple weeks. Yeah, I said it. Just like I'm saying this. Because y'all, somebody has to stand flat-footed, look you in the eye, and tell you the truth. Now, I understand the Democrats got the message, and they have added a African-American female councilwoman to their lineup, which is good. But it shouldn't have to take that. But sometimes it does. And that's why God had me here. Because I ain't got no allegiance to nobody but him. I'm just going to tell you, listen, I'm just going to tell you the truth. Whether Republican or Democrat, I'm just going to tell you the truth. So, because while Republicans are trying to define Talarico as weak or not Texas enough, Democrats need to be careful too. They can't become so focused on defending the man at the top of the ticket, Talarico, that they forget the voters who's carried this party for years and years and years and years. Black voters don't need to be treated as an afterthought. Black women don't need to be asked to show up, organize, defend, vote, and then when it comes down to it, when it comes down to distributing power, when it comes down to who's going to be visible, y'all need to take a back seat. Democrats need to be careful, because you can't build a winning coalition by only defending the candidate and forgetting the people who made the coalition possible. We can't build a better Texas by replacing one kind of exclusion with another. So yeah, I understand why people are watching Paxton and this Talarico race, because it's going to matter. And it's going to reveal a whole lot. But the deeper story is not just who wins. The deeper story, y'all, is what Texas is being asked to normalize. And don't forget that. Don't forget that. Are we normalizing cruelty as strength? Are we normalizing scandal as long as the person fights for our side? Are we normalizing religious language without religious fruit? Are we normalizing the idea that leadership is about performance instead of character? See, these are the questions. And that right there is the question when it comes down to the Senate race. Because character matters. I know some people want to act like, that's old-fashioned, Dorothy. You need to go somewhere and sit down. Listen, it's not. Why? Because character matters, because character reveals who people are. It reveals who people are. Two things reveal its character and its power. I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, if you want to know the true character of a man, give him some power. Give him some power and see how he acts. Because power doesn't make people. Power exposes people. It don't make you who you are. It just exposes who you are. I'm talking power. Yeah. You want to see who a man is? Give him some power. Give him some power. Give him a position. Give him a title. Give him an office. And when you put power in the hands of a person without humility, without accountability, without moral discipline, without regard to truth, you don't get leadership. You know what you get? You get damage. You get collateral damage. And Texas has seen a lot of collateral damage. So when Paxton's side wants to make all this about barbecue, I ain't taking the bait. And neither should you. Because it's not about barbecue. It's about whether voters can still tell the difference between performance and leadership. And where I come from, I'm just an old East Texas country girl. And I'm going to say it like I need to say it. Whether voters can tell the difference between shit and sugar. Yeah. Yeah. It's about whether Christians still care about what Jesus cared about. And that's the fruit that's produced. It's about whether, masculinity is rooted in domination, or whether there's still room for wisdom, restraint, humility, courage. Those are the things that matter, not whether a man eat barbecue or not. It's about whether Texas wants leaders who know how to mock people or leaders who know how to serve people. I'm going to say it again. See? Because we've seen our share of mocking these past 10 years. Aren't you tired of it? It's going to be about whether we as Texans want leaders who know how to mock people or leaders who know how to serve people. And I'm going to say this as plainly as I can say it. A loud man is not always a strong man. And a combative man is not always a courageous man. And certainly, a religious man is not automatically a righteous man. A man who can win a culture war is not automatically fit to lead. And we have seen that, haven't we? So no, y'all, this ain't about barbecue. Ain't about barbecue. It's about trying to define the narrative. Because what it boils down to It's about power. It's about masculinity, faith, and character. About whether we as Texans still know the difference between a strong man and just a loud man. Y'all take care. Thank you for taking the time. And I'll be doing this commentary more and more. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe and hit notify. And thank you for listening. And y'all have a wonderful, wonderful time. Have a wonderfully blessed day or evening or night. See you soon.